Oh yeah. When I get oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can I make this any smaller? No, I can't. Oh hey. What up, what up, what up? What up, what up, what up? File in, file in. Hanging out on Friday afternoon. Oh yeah. File in, come and hanging out. Friday afternoon. Oh yeah. It's gonna be hyper. Welcome everybody. Good to see everyone. Hey, happy Friday. Glad to see you're all still out there surviving. Just holding on a second here when I click a few buttons and we'll let everybody roll up. Get the toll up. Oh, we're gonna talk about this turning point stuff. Not so much an idea, it's just the way it went down. What up, Matt? Thanks for the beer money, bro. Cephas. Exciting times. Finally, YouTube is getting ready to pay out that huge fundraising burst we did a few weeks back. So when that payout happens, I get to make our big donation to colorofchange.org. So that's great. It takes a little while for those funds to come through, but $1,500 we raised on that mapping stream is really great. So thank you, brother. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. I think I got my Q's and my T's all lined up, so if I press this button here, somewhere, I come out of the internet. What up, y'all? It's old Hanker Fernail here. Ingrid Bernal, man with the plan, the man with the podcast to last, coming at you from Runeham area. That's this entire zone. It's right here in the great city of Philly, PA. And it's a beautiful day, as it always is here in Philly. You can't spell beautiful day without PA, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. Good afternoon. So we're going to get into some straight up like game master methods today. I'm not going to talk about exciting other things that are going on. We're going to save that for some other video because exciting other things are going on. So let's just get right into this, okay? Let's jump over to my drawing table here. Everything is cooler when you make laser sounds. All right. The turning point. So what are we even talking about today? What is this garbage? Hanker Fernail, you at it again, you old hound dog, you. How did my layout work here? It's not as great as it could be, but it's as great as it should be. All right, so you're seeing my layer tab for some dumb reason, but that's because the internet and computers. So the turning point is actually something that I think it can be hard for a campaign to find a turning point. So I'm not really going to be talking about the beginning or the end of a campaign. And you guys probably noticed this. I talk about the end of a campaign, or the middle of a campaign quite frequently. To me, it's the hardest part. I think it's the hardest part in almost all storytelling. It is the turning point. Now, a lot of people want to holler out about the hero's journey stuff. And so in a lot of the hero's journey designs, the midpoint is like the nadir, right? It's this circle. Nadir is like a cool word for bottom. So you start here with, the young hero, and then you get the message from the gods, the gift from the gods, and then the great trial, and you get this sort of setback point, or this sort of darkest hour of the soul point, down at the bottom of the journey. You think of it as a circle, and then they come back through, self-discovery and coming to terms and return home and their, glory. Okay, so I think that bottom point in a lot of storytelling is difficult to find. Another thing that can be difficult, and hopefully this turning point stuff I'm going to hit you guys with today solves all these things in one swoop. So another thing that can be difficult in your campaign world is making it seem alive. And the way that you make it seem alive is that it isn't like, something like sort of like Skyrim. Now, Skyrim is a fantastic game, but that world doesn't really feel alive because everything's just sort of sitting there waiting for you to come and kill it, right? A living world things are in motion. And a good example of this in storytelling is obviously Tolkien's world in The Lord of the Rings, because you have Frodo in motion, you have the armies of Mordor in motion, you have Aragorn and his personal journey, and so you get a moving object of a story, rather than what can happen with a lot of D&D worlds, which is just you have this sort of board almost. And I sort of go over here, and I go over here, and I go over here, and oh, there's a thing over there. Hey, look at that. Let's go over there. Right? That to me is a less living world. And so that can also be challenging, to make your world seem sort of dynamic and, you know, exciting and real in that way. So, can you solve the middle point of your story? And can you also solve the difficulty of that living world problem all at the same time? I would say yes. And the way you do it is with a turning point. Now, the different games over the years have provided different ideas for what this means. And I think some of the best ones have been in recent times. So let's just tuck our dice away a little bit here. Let me just kind of tuck these up here. All right, now just kind of follow along with me, if you will. Dream, if you can, a picture of a world. Okay, so now here it is, and here is space 1, space 2, and space 3. All right, now this is your super cool, interesting RPG world that you've created. And what I'd like to propose is there are factions or fronts. Now, fronts is my favorite because that is the word that's used by Dungeon World. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make some fronts. Okay, we're going to have the skull front. All right, then we're going to have the fang front. And, you know, what I'm coming at you here is exactly what I'm using in my current campaign. And it really came to a head on Wednesday night. And that's why I wanted to just get this live stream done right away. Hope you're all getting good signal out there, because this is what's being used in my game right now. So it's not necessarily theory so much as just the practice that's happening. And then down here we're going to have like this kind of monster. There's a monster. Look at that guy. Okay. So we've got skull, fang, and monster. Our players, let's say, live right here. Now, to get fronts to start working, you need like maybe 2 other locations, and then you need motivations. And let's change these from X to, we'll do W. Look, is that a W? Seriously, you guys, is this my standard now? Okay, look. This is W and this is Y. Okay, so get to Y, and then these, the fangs wants to take Y, use against X. And we're going to keep it abstract just for a second, and then we'll get normal. And then the monsters want to get to W. Okay, now we're going to assume that all of these things are bad. If the fangs get to Y and they use it against X, that means total decimation for the human race. If the skulls get to Y, they're going to take the only chance there is to stop the fangs. And if the monsters get to W, then maybe they can actually, let's say this isn't bad, maybe they can help by killing fangs, okay? So we've got 3 things in play. We've got this, we've got this, right, because they're going to rebound, and then we have this. So in a way, we have already some implicit story happening. There's a super weapon here, or a relic, but we'll call it a super weapon to keep things clear and abstract. So Y has a super weapon. Now, for the sake of keeping everything simple, here's our PC's home. It's definitely the thing that's under peril. We're just going to use 1 dice. We're going to use glorious old D6 here. And I hope everybody can hear me and everything's working. I don't see a ton of comments coming and going, but maybe you guys are just chilling, and that's wonderful. So for each one of these little paths that I drew, we're going to throw a dice on it, and that's days. That's days. Even this one is going to have days on it, the rebound one. Now right away you're rolling these, and you guys can probably already see how the turning point comes into being. Okay, so it comes into being as the skulls are in motion. Maybe it's like an army of skeletons on a fleet of ships, and they're moving across the ocean right down here, right? Meanwhile, the fangs, maybe this is like a horde of like bats, these sentient bats, and they want to take this the burning cross, or that's a little politically weird. But I was imagining like a nun with like a freaking badass like holy symbol, but that it came off a little strange, didn't it? So we'll call it the Iron Cross, okay? So the Iron Cross is this relic that everyone's fighting over. The bats want to take it, and then they want to use it to decimate the player's home, which is, like Homeland is the name of it, Homeburg. Okay, and then meanwhile, this is an unrelated battle. This is almost like how werewolves hate vampires. So these monsters are up here. We want this to happen first. Please, yes. So right away, before we even get into how this creates a turning point, I want you to take a moment to breathe this in. Now, all these ideas are silly and sloppy right now, but you can probably start to see parallels to your own game world, and you can see the imperative of each dice roll right here, right? We've got 4 dice rolls to make. And so what we're going to do is when this point comes in your game, and we're going to get more specific in our second round of examples here, you're going to have players make these rolls because that way they take on all the responsibility and all the tension. Okay, so let's just pretend that we roll a bunch of dice, and here's how they come up. 3, 5, 1, 1. I don't know, just random, okay, whatever. So the players right away don't have to worry about this because that's a second stage action. So that one's out of concern. Suddenly they think, hey, wow, those werewolf things are going to be arriving to destroy the bats very, very soon. We have 5 days to stop this from happening. So and only 3 days to stop this from happening. So probably our priority is going to be to stop this fleet right here. Now, you can make this whole scenario even simpler if you just assume all these factions are just things destroying your home city. Here, let's do that. Let's make it hecka simple. Did I combine the right layers? I don't know. I don't really work in layers very well, to be completely honest with you guys. Okay, so let's just get rid of it. Let's make it even simpler. Home. Evil 1, Evil 2, and Evil 3. Then we go to our trusty old dice who run our game. We make 1 dice roll on each faction and the time it's going to take them to attack our precious home, right? And that's when we get these results. 3, 5, 1. They're all attacking home. Our players are just one group of heroes. They can't be in multiple places at once. They don't have a whole military to command, so they've got some decisions to make. Now that you've made it so simple, it's quite easy to see what they need to do. They need to handle evil number 3 immediately. They've only got 1 day to stop them from encroaching. But then, 1 day passes. Let's assume they beat these guys. They're dead. This goes down to 2. This goes down to 4. In 2 days, the top evil is going to arrive at their home, and they need to intercept that. That gives them 2 free days. You see that? Suddenly, they no longer have an imminent threat. They have 2 free days, and what they should be asking the game master is something like, what could we get done in those 2 free days? Could we bolster our defenses? Could we go get the magic sword we heard about? Can we do this? Can we do that? But we have a couple days. Or should we just take the fight to them, kill them right now, and then we have 3 spare days before Evil 2 arrives? Do you see how not only is it a system to create a dynamic world, it has no one outcome. It has no one answer. It invites a very in-depth and strange conversation. Let's jump to another example. Here comes the evil army. We've been talking about the evil army in this campaign since session 1. We're on like our 10th session. They've been growing in the east, right? They're always growing in the east. Here, we'll put them in the east. There we go. The evil army is always growing in the east, and they're finally deploying, and they're heading for none other than, yes, home. But right here we have Osgiliath, right? We have a river. We have a critical battle. So we have a few things to think about now. We could have reinforcements here, and reinforcements here, but the battle has to happen here. Let's go back to our trusty dice. We're just going to use the D6 over and over because we're cool like that. Bang, when do these guys arrive? Bang, when do these guys arrive? How long does it take the army to march from the battleground to the home castle? And finally, how long does it take the army to march to the battleground itself? Then for fun, you could even say, how long does the battle actually rage? And that's going to be a D4. Okay, now let's throw up some results just to be weirdos. 2, 6, 3, 1, 1. Whatever. I'm not rigging it with my numbers, honestly. Okay, so right away, players should be doing some subtraction and looking at what's going to happen first. This is in the future, and this is in the future. They don't have to worry about those. These guys are going to get there first. I hadn't even thought of that. The reinforcements from the north are going to be in the battlefield before the army arrives. That already is a setting of the battle that is completely dice-driven. Do you see that? Instead of saying, hey, I'm the game master, and so I'm going to plan out what this battle is going to feel like. No, the dice are going to decide. The world is simply in motion. It's just doing this. It's simply a matter of how fast this piece is moving and how fast this piece is moving. Whether the scene looks like this at the beginning, or it looks like this at the beginning, or they're simultaneous. Do you see how quickly these variations start to differentiate themselves from one another? And since you aren't making these rolls undercover, you're letting players do these rolls. You get to see together the surprising conditions of battles and of events and of world turning points that have not yet occurred. And this to me is the magic. Now, hold on, because we keep talking about like campaign turning points, right? Doesn't always have to be a campaign turning point. Let's bring it down to an example that just gets horrifically specific. Sporific. What's this here? Looks like a dungeon, Hanker and Farnell. You know, those anomalous underground structures where adventurers spend so much of their time because GMs can more completely control the situation. Okay, so here we have good guys. And here we have evil guy 1, evil guy 2, and then over here we have ritual. The ritual is the overall timer of this space, and there's a big ass tentacle that's going to pop out if the ritual doesn't get stopped. And I'm not talking like 10 feet long. I'm talking like this thing can destroy cities. It's not cool, bro. So now let's get into playing with some dice a little bit more. We're going to put a D8 on the ritual. That's when the ritual is going to be complete. These are fast-moving goblins up here, so we're going to put a D4 on them. These are slow-moving Umber Hulks. We're going to put a 6 on them. And then our players don't really move by a fixed pace, so we can't put a dice on them. So here come the players. Then we realize, wait a minute, there is a way to put a motion limit on players, and that is they are being pursued by something. In this case, let's be dumb, and we're going to call it lava. Here it comes. Look at the lava. Here comes the lava. Oh, God. And it's going to fill up this corridor this quick. Now, before we put any values on any of these dice, take a look here and feel what you're doing, what I'm doing. There are design choices happening here involving speed and timing, but they're not guaranteed and they're not fixed. They're dynamic. There's also conversational material happening here that, especially if players have some knowledge of these things ahead of time, which they have to make this interesting, there's discussions of what should be done, and that is the magic of role-playing. All right, so let's pretend that we did some rolling here. Kind of have my dice right here, but without really having a dice camera, it's not verifiable, so I might as well just make them up. These guys are moving fast. These guys are moving kind of slow. We roll kind of midway on the ritual, and the lava's coming in hot, 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 and quick, quick, quick. Okay, so right there, I was trying just not to, put an agenda on this design and just think about dice rolls, because you know how dice rolls are. They always do some crap you don't think they're going to do. So now, again, let's soak in it a little bit. Look at what was just rolled. Do you feel how it tells a story already? This corridor on the bottom is going to fill with lava before the goblins even arrive. That means the first thing on the player's mind is getting out of the way of the lava, not getting in position to attack or defend against goblins, which is kind of what I thought it would be, right? So they dash forward. The lava fills the corridor. Right away, then they come into line of sight with these gobbies. But, again, take everything you rolled at face value and really take it to the bank. These goblins rolled a 2 on their arrival, not a 1. So they actually only get this far. They're not in range yet. Our characters, our players now have one sort of dead moment, which you could call a round. They have one round as the goblins are running toward them. If the goblins had rolled a 1, they would be right here clashing with the players the minute the players came around the corner. That is a very, very different dungeon story than coming around the corner and seeing the goblins going, ah, and it's like, we only have one round, like cast magic wall, right? The difference between those stories is the actual essence of how this timing system works. And sometimes, hopefully most of the time, your players are going to have complete transparency into this stuff happening, because that's when it gets fun, is when you have them roll it. When someone asks a question about something, they take on the responsibility of letting the dice find the timer on that something. Okay, so now 2 rounds have passed. The battle is joined with the goblins, and the Umber Hulks are approaching. Because of means we haven't fully yet understood, the players know that in 3 rounds, the Umber Hulks are going to come around this corner. That gives them opportunities. Meanwhile, the ritual is down to 2. There's only 2 rounds to stop the ritual. That means the arrival of the Umber Hulks is all but irrelevant. The players defeat the goblins. They go around, completely ignore the Umber Hulk threat, go in to stop the ritual, and notice the timing. Right after they stop the ritual, assuming it takes a couple rounds or whatever, the Umber Hulks arrive, because they were left unmitigated and they were moving slower than the ritual itself. That is such a different story than if we had a lot of different numbers. Whoa, we're going back in time now. Okay, let's go all the way back in time before the dice were rolled. Okay. There we go. So now, just for fun, let's try a slightly different version. 6, 1, 8, 3. So suddenly the Umber Hulks are the threat. The goblins are busy doing something else. They won't be here for 6 entire rounds. So they're actually barely going to arrive before the ritual is done. But the Umber Hulks are speeding in and actually will engage the players 2 rounds before the lava fills. So while you're battling the Umber Hulks, the lava comes filling in. And I think now, JP, you see one of the most fundamental questions that needs to be answered about using the turning point system that I'm proposing. Do you just show people the map and say, like, yeah, there's Umber Hulks around that corner and they're going to be here in 5 seconds? No, you don't. No, you don't. Let's go into that question, JP, because that's a brilliant one. And yes, Sean Stevens, you're seeing the exact same puzzle. Do I just tell you what's ahead? That seems kind of like a bummer. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's say you have 3 things. Let's say you have 4 things going on in your dungeon. Now you know this. And directly to what you guys are asking, do your players know this? No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. But you do. You know that you have orcs. They're on patrol. You have an Umber Hulk, and it's like hunting. You have lava, and you have a ritual. Now, right away, I would argue your players absolutely know about the ritual. They know about this timer, and even for the sake of like having time to even run a dungeon and enjoy it, you just set that to max. It's 6 rounds. Or it's a bigger dice, whatever fits. How do you get this tension to occur even where players are rolling the timing on other things. All you do is you change, hey, there's lava coming, to, you know, you smell brimstone and smoke and magma and molten stone somewhere in the corridor behind you. And you know it's going to be here before too long. Jimmy, how long until it's here? So you see, I didn't just map out where the lava is. Jimmy rolls because he smelled it. So they may not know the exact details, and then he rolls a 3, whatever. The Umber Hulk. The next two can be really vague, but can have a sense of imminence. The orcs. You guys know that orcs patrol these tunnels. There you go. With the Umber Hulk, you could say you guys can either smell or hear something very large moving in the tunnel ahead. But judging by the distance, it's going to be here in how long? 1 round. Or you guys hear a band of orcs moving down the corridor, but you have some time before they arrive. You know, Chuck, how long is it going to be before they get here? You see, you don't have to just reveal the map. You don't have to just reveal all your secrets, because that's no fun. You're a DM. You get to gloat with secrets. But just springing, this is a classic Alfred Hitchcock truism. Just springing someone or something on someone as a surprise does not have a lot of substance to it. Also, Kurt Vonnegut mentioned this principle, is that suspense and surprise is really a cheap storytelling technique. It's knowing it's coming that's exciting and fun. So if I just turn a corner and an Umber Hulk jumps out, that's okay, I guess we're going to fight it. But if I get to look at a Rubik's Cube of either a dungeon or of a world, and what I mean by Rubik's Cube is, when you know that this is here, and your mind can start to assemble how many moves it's going to take to get here. The beauty of complex systems is that we in our heads can also calculate, that means this is going to be over here. But maybe I don't want it to be here. And this is where role-playing comes into play. Because when you're doing a Rubik's Cube, there's no role-playing, right? It's completely abstract. But in D&D, if you see one faction moving to a location, which means this is going to turn this way, well, if they're going to get there in 3 turns, these guys are going to get here in 2, and we're going to miss our chance. We're going to miss the window to do whatever it is, to take a portal, to destroy a ship, to stop an army, to stop a ritual, to claim a relic from evil forces, and so on and so on and so forth. So you're doing the Rubik's Cube just like you would with the toy, but you're adding the context of role-playing. And that's where the fun comes in. Now, I'm going to put in one more chunk of fun, and it's the other direction, okay? Let's go back to our brilliant RPG world. Here it is. Woo, continents. I'm drawing mountains. I'm drawing rivers. Here's an island. Here's a cool little island. Here is the pyramid of importance. This is what we're all battling over in this world. My players have only recently discovered that, though. My players started down here. Boop, 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 boop. My players are thinking on this scale. Session 1, Session 2, Session 3. They went back to their home base for Session 4. They went over to the coast, Session 5. They went up here to the ancient library for Session 6. Then they were told the book has been hidden in a cave over here. This was Session 7. This is what they've been doing right here. This is it. They maybe thought someday they would get out to this island for Session 8. Actually, screw it. Why not? Session 8. So they got a boat. See that? These aren't things that I plan as a DM. These things can just happen. Here's Session 8. This is like Hag Hut. We got the classic Hag Hut. There it is. She's living in a Hag Hut. Here's the Hag. Oh wait, she's got to have, there we go, and weird ears. There's the hag. Okay, this is all my players have been thinking about, is this little world. But when they meet the hag and they finally find the stolen book reveals the overall situation, which is the situation with the pyramid of importance. Suddenly, we go from down here to needing to go like this. And now what we're going to put in place is, instead of the world being the one that gets all the attention and all of the timers and all this cool stuff, the players get it. So the hag joins the players in a way. She's an ally of the players because she wants the pyramid of importance to be preserved. And so she gives them a lot of interesting information. One thing, there's a great maelstrom forming out in the ocean. Then she helps them using like sailing charts. She helps them plot sailing voyages along these routes. And each route, you gotta have a dotted line because they're cool sailing charts, right? There we go. And each route, because of weather, because of piracy, because of freaking D&D, has different components of how long the sailing is going to take. And look what I'm doing here. Now I'm doing a bit of GM, hand-wringing and snickering behind my screen. Look at me, look at me. You notice how I put a D12 travel time on that route? This could be because of pirates. So even with bad rolls, let's go to red. Even with bad rolls, as players are thinking about how are we going to get there quickly, and then she reveals there's going to be an eclipse. And the eclipse is in, 9 days. Because 9 is a creepy number. And if the eclipse happens and the crystal isn't in place, the pyramid of importance is going to be destroyed by the ray of annihilation. So, what are the chances of rolling a 9 or less, really an 8 or less, on 1d12 versus rolling an 8 or less on d4, d6? Do you see how suddenly we have a non-binary, non-static choice for players to have conversations about? The players can talk about, do we want to mess with pirates and count on our ability to do combat to maybe speed up whatever we roll on that d12? Or do we want to take the safer way around the storm? Sail a little more, maybe do some trade over at this little port town we find out about, and then really bank on this roll being low so that we get to this northern shore in time. And also, these are 2 different landing points. What do we know about this shore? What do we know about this shore? What do we know about this right here? Is this route through the mountains and this one's through the salt lake? Right? Suddenly, you can see how much more dynamic your world becomes, how much more living. And when these factors start to crisscross and combine, you get exactly what we're talking about. This is going over here. This has to go through an intermediate step to reach here. And this is what we're reaching. We're reaching, boom, here comes the thesis, the turning point. That is the point of this sort of little mini stream that I wanted to do today, is that what really is the turning point to a campaign? Is it just a cool moment that you sort of visualized in your head before the game began? Because I honestly think a lot of game masters do that, and that's okay. But this way, you can't visualize it. All you can do is continue to propose variables, and players are going to attempt to create a turning point. But can they do it? Well, that's sort of up to the dice and up to some different variables. But the final thing that I would want to bring into this picture is success and failure on all these fronts. Sometimes, just like what happened in our campaign, you're going to have different times, different roles happening. You're here, you need to do these grocery runs to succeed in the campaign. This thing right here is going to happen in, 8 is too quick, we'll call it 12 days. So the players have 3 D6 rolls, hoping that everything can get done, just based on time. But what if you get down here, you spend the time to go down to Zendrik, which is in Eberron, which is what my players did, and you fail to accomplish this particular objective because of combat, because of different variables, because of role-playing? What happens then? Then this changes. All of this changes. You are going to be looking at an entirely new world machine because your bad guys, if they were victorious, down here in this bottom right corner, they now have the target, the object, whatever it may be. In this case, it's a smiley face. The players are now either marooned right here, fiddling about, or back at home base. Maybe they need to give chase. And now you have this much more time involved. So you have this guy counting down. Maybe he's, down to 7 now. This is all done and over with, and it was a failure. And so now they're going here. Meanwhile, these are counting down. Or they're static because they are grocery runs. They are like how long these things are going to take. And they say, look, we don't have time. We don't have time to both get, the sword of slaying and the ray of elimination. Whatever that means. We're going to have to get the book of Mambuli. And the book of Mambuli is over here. They take a new tack on things, saying we just can't do all the grocery runs. We don't have time before the whatever, the eclipse, the army arrives, the end of the world, whatever. So what are we going to do? I think it's really interesting because this preliminary machine is what the DM sort of conceived of, and it is now out the window. One of these cannot be done, probably this one. So now the DM and the players together are asking, is this combination of things going to be enough to stop the calamity? And if it's not, they have a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to do. So Sean, you ask, what if it all crashes though? I'm not sure what you mean by crashes. I don't see any way that these systems can break down. Because as players succeed and fail, the world changes what timers are running. The world changes what's happening next. It's 100% reactive to their actions, failures, and plans. And so, so right away, I think you guys are probably starting to see some solutions, which is that there are new things to discover. And this is why making a big world up front, I don't think it ever works. So buy all the books, get all the creative fuel that you can gather, get your shelf looking awesome, like collect books and tap resources. But you're not going to be able to slam a tome down and say, this is the world. You may now explore it. If you do that, it isn't a world. It isn't a living environment that's changing and responding. So if something gets completely out of reach in your campaign because of player actions or failure or even success in some cases, it isn't a matter of it crashing or breaking. It's simply different. And if you don't have a huge fixed plan ahead of you, it doesn't feel like a breakage. It feels like, oh wow, they're really changing what we perceived this as. They're going to have to go to the Great North. We didn't think we were ever going to go get involved with like a snow campaign, but we're going to have to go up there right now. It stands to reason. We get fond of a pear-shaped. So that is really all I wanted to hurl at you guys. I know it's like a little less than an hour for the whole stream here, but that really was the idea of the turning point. I don't think it should take forever to explain because then it's going to be hard to apply. So the idea being, set some things in motion and then use description or use whatever the cases are in your campaign, because there's so many possible permutations here, to find a way for players to make these rolls. And then it's a sit back and it's a, well, now that we know that the Empire will be here in 3 days, the Rebels are still 4 days away, but we do have some Wookiee reinforcements that'll be here in 1 day. But all those weird IG-88 clones are all hell-bent and they're going to be here in 2 days. And so we need to handle that first. Whereas if those dice rolls were all different, The IG-88 clones could just be a flanking reinforcement to the Empire, or there could even be enough time to get out there in a small ship with a small team and reprogram the IG-88 clones to come in on the rear of the Empire and attack them from within. So all those stories are also different based on how long these different vectors are in your world. And sometimes they're going to be a lot cooler, sometimes they're going to be a little bit head scratchy, sometimes players are going to master them. Like when you have a lot of good things in motion and a lot of bad things in motion, and the good things are all coming in first, that means you're going to be on the offense. But if your reinforcements are showing up way after the bad guys show up, you're up against the wall. And whether or not you're on the offensive or you're being pushed up against the wall, those are such different stories. That's such a hugely contrasting point of role-playing. Helm's Deep is so different than when Aragorn takes what's left of Gondor to attack the gates of Mordor. Those are such different moments. And the gravity and the context of the moments should inform the RP of your players, because you're a badass DM and you got this, baby. All right, that's all I came to say. Thank you, everybody, for throwing up the comments. If anybody has like a super substantive question, throw it at me. Like, just put all caps question on there so that I notice. I'm going to start cleaning up my desk here and wrapping this baby up and getting ready to do absolutely nothing this weekend. So it's going to be fantastic. Yeah, Loop Dog, no problem, man. Brain grapes are where it's at. You gotta make that wine, baby. Do the PCs know the roles? Hopefully. They don't need to know what the plan is. So one example is in my campaign right now. They used a scrying sphere to look at the world and to look at various world events. And one thing they were curious about is the nation of Zilargo, which is a gnomish nation in Eberron. And they looked, and the streets and the buildings were all completely abandoned and empty in the gnomish cities. And using scrying magic, which was my excuse for them to make the roll, they realized that in like 6 days, the entire nation of Zilargo will be completely empty of gnomes, completely abandoned. They have no idea why or what that means, only that it seems to be an important world event and probably some kind of symptom of something horrible happening or about to happen. So they don't always need to know the plan. They just need to feel time compressing, because I'll tell you, nothing is worse than a D&D campaign with no time limits on it. It's horrible. That's where murder hobo lifestyles come from, when there's no time limits and the world is not dynamic and all you're doing is moving from one gold hole to the next and killing villagers to get some gold so you can get the Vorpal sword. Like that. No, that's not for me. And maybe some people have fun that way and they can rock on, but that's not for me. Drawing heroes with Hank Strange again. Yeah, you know, I've been keeping a lot of my drawing pretty private, because I've been entirely working on Index Card RPG 3rd edition, which is a whole book with all new art. So it's boatloads of art, and I really want to save it for a big reveal late in the year. How do you feel about hiding some of the information behind the checks? Like for scouting ahead, or allowing scouting ahead to add to the timer? That's fine. I almost never hide anything in my games. Everything's very dry and frank as far as being out in the open. I like players to know a lot. I find that when they're in the dark, the RP can be somewhat difficult. Like, for me, I just want to give them all the context I can hand them about the world. Just, here's all the stuff. Here it is. This is all I've got right now, because I don't design so far ahead that I can even offer them spoilers. Then they're the ones who get to scratch their chins and be like, well, if we've got a vampire beholder on our hands and it's planning to take over the city, but it needs this relic, then we know at least 2 key things here. We can start to take action rather than just constantly reacting. So I think really that info looseness on the part of the game master not only gives your players context for role-playing, which is like a huge dividend, it also puts things in their hands. See, if I just present you with a world and say, okay, where you want to go, guys? There might be bad stuff happening. There can often be this huge lull, which can sometimes last even more than one entire session, where you're kind of Okay, who wants to role play first? And well, my backstory says that I'm eager to get into an adventure, so I guess I'm eager to get into this adventure. You see what I mean? Like information and just openly saying, okay, guys, this is your basic D&D campaign. We got pretty much there's a beholder. This old wizard shows up. His name is Grisgul, and he tells you all about it. Bang, you're in it. And you can save the Shakespearean moments for later. Do you ever feel like pressing local or room timers diminishes players' ability to explore their world? Absolutely. Everything I do in my game diminishes my players' ability to explore. Everything. I am not here to give them anything. I am here to take from them, to take away constantly. If they want to explore, they need to overcome. Because a quiet, unmoving, undangerous world to me is a recipe for like the morass of boredom. So if they want to explore, they're going to have to fight and they're going to have to run. I've got like this super low level music in the background because I was just feeling it today. I'm needing a higher level of calm and happiness to go into what is going to be a unique and momentous weekend for those of us living here in my country. We're going to see what's going to happen, but I just want everybody to stay safe out there. Feeling pretty good about the Turning Point stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it's useful for your game. I'm right here doing my thing, so never hesitate to text me or email me or hit me up on Facebook, anything. Let me know what's up. Holla at me. Jump on our Discord server. And I've got another video coming up before the weekend is over about a huge project that I just finished. So we're going to dive into that, but not on this stream. So keep it real. Do not steal. You always get a deal. Mask up out there, you guys, and love your neighbor. You know, talk to one another. Be cool with it. We're all in this together. So let's just be homies, all right? And we're going to get through this stuff, okay? Stay healthy. Stay happy. Always point at your own head and don't act sappy. I'll see you guys on the internet. Until next time, peace out. That's where it's at. That's what it's all about right now, man.